Hey everybody, Dr. Sanderson here. Welcome to Unit 4, where we're going to be talking about probably what is the most relevant contemporary issue in sport, really, but also pertaining to social media, and that is athletes' activism expressions and identity expressions through social media. So, if you follow the sports news, for the past year, 6 months post-election, you've seen a good number of stories on this topic, and some of those you'll look at in the readings for this unit, and then some of them are mentioned in the lecture as well. So I'm of the opinion that one of the biggest changes we've seen with social media in terms of how it's changed sport or influenced sport has been with athletes' communication. So if you think about pre-internet, pre-social media, how did you get a hold of athletes, right? How did you talk to them? Well, you could talk to them at a game, try and meet them there. You could write them a letter and hope they wrote back. And you could rely on chance encounters in public, right? So maybe you happen to be at a club or restaurant that the athlete happened to be at, right? With social media, though, now we have much greater likelihood and ability to engage the athletes digitally. As you know, it's very hard to talk to an athlete in the physical context. I mean, you can't just walk down on the court before the game and ask them questions and that sort of thing. They're very much limited from the ways they can interact with people at games, or on road trips and that sort of thing. So, but with social media, we can directly message them. And in fact, some of you may have had experiences where athletes have messaged you back or acknowledged your social media content. And as a fan, that's a really cool experience. I've had conversations with athletes on social media, and it's a really cool kind of opportunity. Um, so there's that aspect of it. The other thing is that athletes are now sharing more of their identity and their personality through social media. So, we see athletes talking about their family life and activities they're going on. I'm going hunting this weekend, and here I am out, at the beach or whatever. Here I am. I really like this restaurant. I love Starbucks. And so by sharing that kind of personal content, it helps us relate with athletes in ways that we can't do athletically. Many of us cannot hit a 95 mile an hour fastball. We can't run a 4.40, but we can, like the same music as an athlete, like the same clothes as an athlete, or whatever. And so that enhances our ability to like them, and in a way, it kind of levels our relationship with them. Now, that leveling is good, but it can also be bad. So, for instance, we know that a lot of athletes and even their family members have been subjected to hateful messages from fans via social media. And one of the explanations for that is because social media makes athletes seem more like us, right? So they come down here, at least in our perception, then we don't have any problem sending them a hateful message, right? So now there are clearly other explanations for that behavior, but one of them is that because social media has made athletes kind of seem more like us, it facilitates and leads to that kind of behavior. Now, something else, then kind of as athletes have started to share more of their identity, that also involves commenting on social and political issues. So that's, for many people, that's a part of their identity, and we shouldn't be surprised that athletes have views on those subjects as well. And so what we're seeing is on social media, but as well as off social media, athletes are engaging in more kind of commentary, activism, and advocacy, and that creates some really interesting implications. So, on one hand, if you agree with what the athlete says, that helps you, connect with the athlete even more. But as we know, politics are very divisive, and so they're going to alienate people as well. Okay, and so as a sports organization leader, the issue then becomes, well, how do you deal with that when you get fans saying, I'm going to cancel my season tickets, I'm going to boycott the games, sponsors say we're going to pull our advertising because of what this athlete's doing. So if you're a team president, a general manager, legal counsel for a sports organization, what do you do? Do you discipline the athlete and then run the risk of people criticizing you for infringing on free speech? Do you not do anything and just let it ride and deal with the negative pushback? I mean, it's a really interesting time right now with this topic, because a lot of, just in my conversations with people in sport, and I know some people in sports public relations, and it's just very tenuous right now, because no matter what an organization does, they're going to alienate someone and they're going to get pushback. And so it's kind of just a matter of, well, how do you alienate people the least? And through social media, teams now get a multitude of comments. So they have media people commenting and engaging in discussion, politicians. In the lecture, there's a link to an article that talks about teams. Some of you are familiar with Colin Kaepernick, the NFL player who kneeled during the national anthem last year, and he's currently a free agent. And this article talks about a lot of teams don't want to sign Colin Kaepernick because they're afraid of getting a tweet from President Trump. So, that's a whole nother social media angle that teams are now thinking about. Gee, are we going to get tweeted at by politicians for signing a player? And at least as this article kind of hints at and others have hinted at, that's making teams not want to sign the guy. So, there's very interesting, kind of ramifications of all that. And, the other side of it is now teams are really having to prep their players on being asked about political questions or questions that could lead to an answer that could be interpreted as a political statement. So, for example, any team that wins a championship, and this happened with North Carolina and men's basketball, and obviously the Patriots in the Super Bowl. But are you going to go to the White House? And so now teams are having to coach players and coaches on how to answer that question so as not to be seen as making a political statement. And as we know, some athletes and coaches don't care; they're going to make political statements. So it's just a very very interesting time with all of this. So I'm really looking forward to your comments and your thoughts on this subject, especially if you want to work in sports. This is something that's very much at the forefront of the minds of sports managers and sports administrators. So in the discussion forum, you'll talk about athletes using social media to engage in political and social kind of commentary, and then you'll need to work on an essay that'll actually be due in the next unit. Where you're going to find a news article that talks about an athlete engaging in some sort of commentary or activism and analyze kind of what happened and draw some implications and conclusions from that. So looking forward to what you come up with there. Just remember that'll be due in the next unit. Your discussion forum, same deadlines, Saturday for the initial post, Monday for the 2 response posts. Remember that your social media policy that you hopefully started working on in Unit 3 is due on Monday, June 12th as well. So looking forward to your thoughts. This is a very, very interesting topic, and I will talk to you soon.